Well, finally got the excavator home. It's been gone for almost 2 months now, but I had a thumb built for it. It is all custom made. I priced out like a made thumb from companies, and they were like at least $5 grand, so I know a local fabricator who was able to do this for me, and he's actually building a house in the spring and wants me to dig the hole for his house, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a trade there, which is nice. But he did a really nice job on this. This was an existing bracket that was on the boom as an old manual thumb, and that's how it's set up right now. I'm going to get a cylinder for it. I'm just waiting on a diverter valve. I'm gonna put a diverter valve on that cylinder so I can either switch it to run the thumb or run the side shift boom. I think that'll work all right, but I just got that bar in there for now so I can use it. But they did a nice job building it. Put grease fittings in, and she's heavy duty. I used it a little bit when I brought it home the other day, but it was pretty well dark, so I didn't bother videotaping anything. But I'll get this fired up and go give it a try. That thing starts so easy in the cold. It fires right up. It's about -5 today, but still, like, no preheat, just fires right up. Gotta love it. So I'm gonna come down in here into this area, and I want to clear a bunch of this brush out and some of those ironwood trees. I want to build a garage in the spring. That's kind of the plan. And the garage is gonna go in this area. I'm gonna have to move that garage. But anyways, I want to get a couple of those rocks shoved over along the side, because I'm probably gonna have to bring more fill in here. But I'll walk down there and have a look. I'd like to be able to leave these bigger trees that are along the back here, but I'll get all these ironwoods out and get this kind of cleaned up back here. I'm not sure how far back I'll have to come with the fill, but I'll get down in here anyways and get rooting around and get some of these rocks straightened up and scratch some paint off of that thumb. I'll get all this mud off the driveway. Well, I ran out of sunlight the other day, but I'm gonna keep on clearing some trees today. But before I get started, I want to grease this excavator. So I got the old Milwaukee grease gun, and I just put this lock and lube coupler on it, and it's pretty slick, so I'll show it in action. Look, Ma, no hands. That one's always hard to get, but with this thing, it's effortless. I'm sure a lot of people don't bother to take the time to wipe all this extra grease off, but I don't know, just if you do it more often, it just doesn't get away from you. Because before you know it, everything's just a big greasy mess. I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's nice to take a bit of pride in your stuff. And dirt gets all stuck in this too, and you don't want a bunch of dirt sticking to everything where it's moving, so I don't know. I try my best to keep it clean. All right, I got her all greased. I gotta go grab a different pair of gloves. Those rubber gloves keep your hands clean, but there's not a whole lot of R value in them. So we're all set here. Let's get started. Alright, so I pretty well got everything cleared out down here that I can. I still need to take out those two trees. Well, I guess probably all three of them. But that'll involve a chainsaw. But anyways, that's pretty good there. And then all these big rocks along here, I want to kind of bring them along the side and just kind of stack them up. and kind of finish that bank off with those. I don't know how far back the fill is going to come, and then I'd like to gradually slope it down the back here. So that'll be the next step, getting these big rocks shoved over and get them into place. But I won't be able to get those rocks set where I want until those two trees are out of the way. But there's still more brush that I want to clear that's up behind the machine, so we'll do that too. Find these big rocks so you can do landscaping with them and build rock walls, but then you're left with this big hole. Oh well, give a little to get a little. The guy that built this thumb for me says, "Oh, now you're a gardener." I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Well, you've got a green thumb." Ha ha ha, very funny. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about the design of this thumb, because I had a guy build it and he'd never built a thumb before. I looked at lots of pictures online, and what I'd kind of noticed about thumbs is that either strong bar or cylinder was always mounted about a third of the way down from the pivot to the end of the tooth. So when we were designing it, we kind of took that into consideration. And all the manual thumbs, the strong bar kind of mount about this height, but this one is mounted up high because I'm going to put a cylinder in here. And when we were designing this and figuring out all the geometry of it, this is where the cylinder is going to have to be mounted. So when the cylinder retracts, this will lay as flat as possible or open as wide as possible, but then still be able to, when the cylinder extends, have a range of motion down as far as possible. And something else I wanted to talk about is the length of the thumb. So the thumb needs to be the proper length for the size of bucket. If the thumb's too short and the end of the teeth fall here, then it kind of doesn't close properly and it's hard to grab stuff. So you want the teeth of the thumb to just kind of meet with the length of the teeth of the bucket, and then this is built so it goes in between the teeth to kind of mesh together. Well, that's something that you also have to consider to make sure that the thumb is the right length for the bucket. Something else you have to consider when you're designing a thumb is the pivot point. Now, if this had a quick coupler on it, this pivot could share the same pivot as the bucket, but it doesn't, so it was just kind of easier to do that. This bracket was already on this boom, but it just kind of depends on the machine. But you ideally want this pivot as close to this pivot as possible. So this kind of only pertains to when they have a hydraulic cylinder on them. A manual thumb doesn't really matter, but when the bucket opens and this hinges down, the geometry will kind of change. So if the teeth meet up here, the higher this pivot is up, when it comes down, the thumb will be a lot shorter than the teeth on the bucket. So you want to have this mounted down as far as you can, but it just depends on the machine and the configuration of it. Another kind of design feature that was incorporated into this one is how the strong bar or cylinder mounts on. These ears are welded on and they stick up above the body of the thumb. So to put the pin in is pretty straightforward. There's other thumb designs, and this actually mounts kind of down in flush here, and then the outside arms have to have a hole drilled in them, which like really isn't a big deal, but we just came up with that to kind of keep it simple. So something else you have to keep in mind is the thumb's range of motion. So when this thumb pivots and lays all the way open, it will not hit the boom. To design this, I used a piece of cardboard actually. I just had the cardboard cut out of that, and then I just stuck a bolt through there, and I made sure that it would go through its range of motion without hitting the boom. And the stick is all the way up right now, so it won't hit there. But those are just some of the things that you have to think about if you are going to design a thumb to build yourself. So I'll talk about the material used to build this thumb. This is an 8-ton machine, and the thumb itself, that's 1-inch plate, and then I believe that's 1/2-inch plate. And then this here, that's solid bar stock. It's drilled, welded on both sides, it goes all the way through. And then those are 1-inch material as well. And this square tubing, or I guess rectangular tubing, it's hollow, but it's fairly thick wall. And this is the same stuff here, this cross tube. And this cross tube is actually fairly important. The way it's placed, you don't want it to hit your teeth, and you want it to be as close to the end of the thumb as you can get it, because it does help to grab small rocks or a little stick or something that will just kind of help grab onto it and trap it in there. So that's something that you don't really want to overlook either. And then everything in here, this is cut out so it doesn't hit anything when it goes through its range of motion. But the guy did a really nice job. He machined out these, I think he called them bosses, to get the tolerance on it nice and tight. And that pin goes all the way through, and then he's got the grease fittings in there on both sides, so it'll take grease. These teeth make a really big difference on here. I'm sure that pretty well every thumb would have those, but if you are going to build one yourself, those are definitely a must to have on there. They really help to bite into a rock or whatever. And it probably wouldn't even be a bad idea to have them all the way up. Like I was grabbing onto rocks, like you can see I was into something up there and it's smooth up there, but those teeth are definitely a must. And they are cut into it at a bit of a arc too, so that helps if you're grabbing logs or stones or whatnot. But this thumb is a fairly simple design. There's lots of pictures and designs for them on the internet, but this is kind of what we came up with. And this material up here, that's 1 inch thick as well. So there's a look at those, the profile of the teeth. They are curved, which helps. And then underneath, it's just kind of flat. And it's nice to have this plate here, because when there's a cylinder here, that'll protect from stuff going up and making contact with the cylinder. So that eliminates any chance of damage there. So the point of this video is to talk about the design of thumbs if someone is looking to build one. And the way that mine turned out, I will be making a separate video of plumbing it for a hydraulic thumb. So this video kind of goes over the design of this thumb and the first couple hours of using it. And it is working very, very well. I am just blown away by what you can do with this. There is a video of me clearing out at the end of the driveway with no thumb, and it's just a world of difference with having a thumb. It's just awesome. So that was the first couple hours of use on the new thumb, and I don't think there's going to be any issues with it. I was scratching at some pretty big rocks and torquing on it pretty good, and everything still looks good. So that's a well-built thumb. So if anybody's got any questions about this thumb, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you. If there's anything I didn't cover, or if there's anything you want to see, let me know, and I'll be happy to get back to you.